Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as I show you how to divide Pachysandra. So let's go. Pachysandra is a wonderful ground cover. It's a ground cover that easily can take over an area, which a lot of times is beneficial to lots of people. For example, you might have an area of your yard that's kind of weedy and you don't want to deal with it anymore. It doesn't get a lot of sun. You really can't grow anything there, and it maybe falls under some trees. Pachysandra makes a great ground cover in a situation like that. Now, I don't have it in my landscape. I got a small sprig of it from my sister-in-law a few years ago, and I've divided it over time and then potted it back up. And what I wanted to do today was actually just divide it some more and create more pots of it. And hopefully next year I can find a place in my landscape where I want to put it. But it's also a plant that I want to offer for sale as part of my backyard plant nursery. So let me collect all the pots that I have, and I'll let you know how many we're going to start with and then how many we end up with in the end. We are starting with 6 big plants, and they're in small 4-inch square pots. And if you look carefully, you'll see that the roots are actually coming out from the bottom of the pots. These plants definitely need to be taken out of their pots, and at that time I might as well divide these up into individual pots so that they're ready to go for next year. So I'm going to go ahead and just take all these plants out of this pot, and I'm just squeezing the size of the pot here. And I want to mention, even though I'm doing this process like taking the plants out of the pot, let's say you have Pachysandra in your landscape and you want to divide it. What you could do is you can actually take a large shovel and you could slice right down through the center of your Pachysandra plant, kind of like this right here. And you can definitely just break up or divide your plant that way. But because I have these plants in a pot, I figured I would show you close up what the root structure looks like and how I'm going to divide them. The next thing I'm going to do is actually just take off as much of the soil as I can so that I can show you what the roots look like. This plant grows so quickly, as do other ground covers. So it makes sense for me, because I have a plant nursery, to go ahead and divide it down to single pieces. I'm going to use hand pruners to divide my Pachysandra. So you can see right here you have green growth, and if you follow it down, you have roots right there. You can cut anywhere along this as you want, but I want to get the most amount of roots as I can. So I'm just going to cut right down here at the bottom. And that is one plant, and that plant will quickly turn into many plants by next year. With this piece here, you can see there's green growth, and if you follow it down, the roots begin down here. But notice it's sending off another plant. I could cut this off and put this in its own pot, but I'm not going to do that. I might as well keep these two together. And again, I'm just going to snip somewhere down along the bottom here. I have a lot more pieces to divide right here, so let me go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to show you what's next. I'm just using recycled pots that I have on hand, and then I have compost that I get for free from a local transfer station. But you can use whatever you want. You can use potting mix, you can use garden soil, as long as it's a well-draining soil. Even though I'm going to be potting this up, you could take this piece and put this right out in your landscape. So I'm just going to show you what you would do with it if you were to pot it up or put it in the landscape. Just make sure when you're putting it in the ground or in a pot that the green growth is above soil level, that the roots are below soil level. And in terms of the depth, I would prefer to plant it as deep as possible, just so that the plant is nice and sturdy. And then you want to go ahead and backfill the soil around the plant. And make sure you push down just so that the plant is secure in the soil. And you're also pushing down just to eliminate any air pockets that might be in there. And now I can go ahead and give this a drink of water. When it comes to dividing your Pachysandra, you really can do it any time of the year. The key is just make sure you're giving the plant plenty of water after you've divided it. And when it comes to propagating your Pachysandra, this is not the only way you can do it. You can also take cuttings of the plant by taking the plant from a mother plant and making sure that you have a number of nodes where the leaves are on the plant. And then you can go ahead and you can cut off all the bottom leaves, just keeping some leaves on the top, at least 2 or 3 sets of leaves. And then you can take that cutting and you can either place it in water, as long as you're changing out the water daily and putting that glass of water with the cutting or cuttings in a shady location. The plant should root for you over time, and then when it roots for you, you can pot it up or you can put it somewhere in your landscape. Another way that you can propagate this plant is by also taking cuttings, but taking the cuttings and actually sticking them in dirt. So you would prepare them the same way in terms of taking off the bottom leaves and leaving just a few leaves on the top, but then taking those cuttings and sticking them in a pot with, let's say, some potting mix in it, giving that pot some water, but not too much water. And again, putting the pot in a shadier location. And over some number of weeks, you'll get roots on your plant, and then you can take that plant and put it in your landscape or in a pot. Oftentimes, when it comes to ground covers, it's either, I feel, feast or famine. In other words, you might have this ground cover, and you might be wondering, why am I making a video on how to propagate Pachysandra? Because you have so much of it, let's say, in your landscape. But stores sell it, garden centers sell it for a reason. There are a lot of people that don't have any ground cover and they want a ground cover, so they need to start somewhere. So if you can get your hands on even one piece or two pieces of Pachysandra from a nursery or from a friend, then it's pretty easy to take those few plants and propagate them into a number of plants. In fact, that's what I've done over time, and I'm going to continue doing, which is why I'm potting all of these up, because next year I want to really have a lot of this plant. I've never sold it before, but people have asked me for it, or they've just looked for ideas on what to have for a ground cover in their landscape. And I want to be able to offer this as an option. Like any ground cover, a ground cover can take over and it can be a little bit invasive. So you want to make sure you're placing your ground cover in a location where it can take over, even if it's towards the front of a flower bed, or like I said earlier, under a tree. And what's nice about a lot of ground covers, including Pachysandra, is that they are really easy to remove. So you can control your plant just by pulling it out and keeping on top of it every single year. I'd love to know if you have Pachysandra in your landscape, and how do you use it? Are you using it as a ground cover under a tree? Are you using it where maybe there's a slope somewhere and this ground cover is helping with erosion issues? Please drop it down in the comment section below, because there are a lot of people that read the comments, and I'm sure they'd love to have ideas on what they could do with a ground cover like this. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down in the comment section below. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening. Just a quick update. So we turned 6 plants into just over 70 plants. And I still have one more pot left that I need to empty out and divide. So in the end, I'm guessing there should be about 90 plants, which is pretty good. Happy gardening, friends.